So, about 2,800 years ago, there was this blind poet named Homer, not Simpson, but just Homer. He wrote two super famous stories, the Iliad and the Odyssey, starring big names like Odysseus, Achilles, Paris, and Helen. Think of them as the superheroes of their time. Now let's talk about the Trojan War. Imagine a time when monsters were as common as pigeons in a city park. There was this super rich and mighty kingdom called Troy, not far from Athens and Sparta. This place had walls so strong people said, "Hey, the gods must have built these." King Priam and Queen Hecuba ran the show there. Priam was quite busy. He had 100 kids, 50 sons, and 50 daughters. Imagine the noise at dinner time. The star kid was Prince Hector, Troy's top warrior. He was so cool and brave, only Achilles could match him in a fight. Hector was a family guy, totally in love with his wife, Andromache, and his son, Astyanax. Then there was Cassandra, Hector's sister, who had this weird thing going on. She caught Apollo's eye, and he gave her the gift of prophecy to impress her. But when she said, "No thanks," to Apollo, he got super petty and cursed her, making sure no one would ever believe her predictions. Paris, another brother, had a rough start. Before he was born, a prophecy said he'd be bad news for Troy. His mom, Hecuba, couldn't bear to harm him, so she had a shepherd do the job. But the shepherd was like, "Nah, he's too cute," and raised Paris himself. Little did they know this would lead to some serious trouble. Now, over in Sparta, things were getting interesting. Zeus, the top god, fancied Queen Leda and turned into a swan to woo her. Yep, a swan. Leda then had 2 eggs, because why not? And out popped 2 boys and 2 girls, including Helen, the Miss Universe of ancient times. When Helen was ready to marry, it was like the Bachelorette, ancient Greece edition. Every hotshot from around came to win her heart. Odysseus, Agamemnon, Ajax. Helen was stressed, thinking rejecting these guys might start a fight. So Odysseus, being the clever guy he was, made everyone promise to back up whoever Helen picked. She chose Menelaus. So, up on Mount Olympus, there was a big wedding bash for Achilles' parents, and all the cool gods and heroes were invited. But they left out Eris, the goddess of drama. Literally, she's the goddess of discord. Feeling snubbed, she crashed the party with a golden apple tagged "for the hottest one here." She tossed it among the goddesses, sparking the ultimate catfight between Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite. Each of them was like, "I'm obviously the fairest," and things got heated. Zeus, not wanting to pick sides in this divine beauty contest, passed the buck to Paris. The goddesses tried to bribe him. Hera offered power. Athena promised mad fighting skills, but Aphrodite played her trump card, the most beautiful woman in the world. Paris was like, "Sold," and gave her the apple. Aphrodite's prize was Helen of Sparta, and she magicked Helen to fall for Paris. Paris whisked Helen away from Sparta, sparking what would become the world's most famous love triangle. Back in Troy, Paris got a hero's welcome, but his brother Hector was like, "Dude, you're going to start a war." And Cassandra, who was always right but never believed, thanks Apollo, freaked out, saying this would end badly for Troy. When Menelaus, Helen's hubby, found out she was gone, he was livid. He rallied all her old suitors, reminding them of their oath to defend her choice. They grudgingly agreed, "Fine, we'll help you get your wife back." First up was Agamemnon, Menelaus's bro and the big boss with the biggest army. Then came the other jilted suitors like Odysseus, who tried to dodge the draft by acting crazy. Spoiler, it didn't work. Odysseus and Diomedes had to play a trick to recruit Achilles, the invincible warrior, except for his heel, but shush, that's a secret. His mom tried to hide him among some ladies, but a clever trick with armor and a war horn gave him away. Achilles was like, "Fine, I'll go to war, but I'm not happy about it." With all these big names on board, Agamemnon's fleet was set to sail, but they hit a snag. Agamemnon had to make a tough call to please Artemis and get the winds back, a decision that's more tragic Greek story than happy family reunion. Troy wasn't just sitting back eating popcorn, though. They had their own A-list, like Aeneas, backed by Aphrodite, and allies like the Lycians and Amazons. These ladies didn't mess around. The gods were picking sides too, like it was their favorite reality show. Hera and Athena backed Greece because they were still salty about the apple. Aphrodite sided with Troy, obviously, and Apollo was Team Troy all the way. So the Greeks have been trying to break into Troy for 9 years, but those walls are tough nuts to crack. Achilles, the Greek superstar, takes his team on a road trip for supplies, which is just a fancy way of saying they looted everything in sight. Among the loot were two women, Briseis and Chryseis, who basically became the center of a huge drama. Agamemnon, the Greek big boss, falls head over heels for Chryseis. But her dad, a priest of Apollo, is not cool with this. He offers Agamemnon a bunch of bling-bling to get her back, but Agamemnon's like, nope. This ticks off Apollo, who starts shooting plague arrows at the Greeks. Agamemnon finally caves and lets Chryseis go, but he's now feeling lonely. So he decides to snatch Briseis from Achilles, which is kind of like stealing your buddy's favorite toy. Achilles gets super mad and almost fights Agamemnon, but the goddess Athena steps in like a divine referee and cools things down. Fast forward to the 10th year of war, and things are getting messy. Paris and Menelaus, Helen's two beaux, decide to settle it with a duel. Winner takes Helen. Menelaus is winning, but Aphrodite, the goddess of love, whisks Paris away to safety, leaving Helen rolling her eyes at his cowardice. Hector, Paris's brother, is embarrassed by the whole fiasco and gears up for battle. He's a one-man wrecking crew against the Greeks, who are missing their star player Achilles. Then comes Patroclus, Achilles' BFF, who decides to wear Achilles' armor and jump into the fray. The Trojans freak out, thinking it's Achilles. But Hector isn't fooled for long. He kills Patroclus, only to realize he didn't get the real deal. Back in Troy, everyone's super sad. Hector's wife and son are especially heartbroken, clinging to his body as it's paraded through the streets. And that's where Homer decides to wrap up the Iliad. But don't worry, there's still more drama in Troy's future. So, Hector's out of the picture, and things in Troy are looking pretty grim. Achilles is on a rampage, knocking out Trojans left and right. But surprise, he gets hit by a poison arrow shot by Paris, with a little help from Apollo, right in his heel, his only weak spot. Talk about bad luck. Achilles drops like a sack of potatoes, and that's the end of his story. Paris, the guy who shot Achilles, doesn't get to celebrate for long. The Greeks are like, nope, you're not getting away with that, and they get their revenge. Now the Greeks are scratching their heads. Without Achilles, breaking into Troy seems impossible. But wait, here comes Odysseus with a brainwave. Let's build a giant wooden horse. Inside this horse, they pack a bunch of Greek warriors, including Odysseus himself. The next morning, the Trojans find this massive horse outside their walls and think, party time, the war's over. They drag the horse inside, ignoring Cassandra, who's the only one saying, guys, this is obviously a trap. But nobody listens to her. Classic. When night falls, it's action time. The Greek soldiers sneak out of the horse, take out the guards, and open the gates for their buddies. Suddenly, Troy is an all-you-can-loot buffet for the Greeks. King Priam, the big boss of Troy, sees his city turning into a barbecue and meets a sad end at the hands of Pyrrhus, Achilles' son. It's kind of like a revenge sequel. Then, in a not-so-happy turn of events, Pyrrhus finds Hector's family. He does some really mean stuff, like chucking Hector's son off the walls and capturing his wife, Andromache. After 10 years of fighting, the Greeks finally get the upper hand, all thanks to a wooden horse. Just goes to show, always look a gift horse in the mouth, especially if it's big enough to hide a bunch of soldiers. So, after the Greeks trick their way into Troy, Cassandra, the prophetess who no one listens to, runs to Athena's temple. Meanwhile, Agamemnon decides Cassandra is his new favorite person, which doesn't go over well with his wife Clytemnestra back home. She's already mad at him for a pretty grim reason, something about sacrificing their daughter. And now this? She takes an axe to Cassandra and a dagger to Agamemnon while he's sleeping. Talk about a family feud. Menelaus gets back together with Helen, and they head back to Sparta to live happily ever after, at least until they join the eternal beach party on the Isle of the Blessed. But the story's not over for everyone. Odysseus, the smarty pants of the Greeks, has a whole adventure ahead of him. He's got a 10-year road trip filled with all sorts of scary stuff. And that's Troy's dramatic fall. Like, subscribe, and drop a comment for more epic tales. Stay tuned for the next adventure.